Most software engineers believe that if I keep working hard enough, the promotions will come. But if that were the case, the hardest working engineers would always get promoted first. But as we all know, that's not the case. We all know those hard working engineers, but the promotion just never comes. They just keep getting passed over. Maybe that's you. And then on the flip side, there might be engineers who might not be working as hard enough, but seem to be getting promoted just faster. It's actually not about hard work, it's how you're directing your hard work. Let's break that down. In today's video, I'll share 3 mistakes that most engineers make when it comes to hard work and how senior engineers position their work differently so that they get the recognition and growth with it. And if you're new here, hey, I'm Ninad. I personally went from a junior to a senior engineer in under 2 years, not because I was working extremely hard, but because I was positioning my work smartly, which led to the recognition and growth and how others perceive me. Now, I share practical communication and growth tips on this channel that engineers are rarely taught, but are always judged on. So, with that being said, let's get straight into it. Before we even move forward, I want to clarify that hard work is really important, but even more important than that is how you're positioning your hard work and how it's being perceived by others. If that hard work is only benefiting you, it most likely will go unnoticed. But now, if that hard work is impacting your colleagues, your team, your organization, your hard work will start becoming a lot more visible and will get you that recognition and growth you're looking for. With that out of the way, mistake number 1, working hard but on the wrong things. Most engineers usually ever care about writing beautiful code, writing perfect code, writing the most optimal code, or even wanting to solve interesting technical problems. But my friend, doing all of this does not drive value, nor does it drive visibility. Working on interesting problems, yeah, I mean, I understand it can help with boredom, but solving important problems is what helps with your growth and your visibility. And when I say important, I mean problems that provide impact and value to your direct team members, your manager, your organization, things like that. So, sure, writing the most optimal code might make you think you're providing value, but to be honest, is it really? So, what senior engineers do differently is they have this thought in their head as to, okay, what will help the team? So, they might actually start working on projects which might be quite uninteresting, could be like writing scripts or writing automations, but that automation drives so much more impact to the direct team, to maybe even sister teams, because if, let's say, it gets incorporated by a team and you see the benefits of it, most likely the word's going to spread and then other teams will come to you and say, oh, can you help do this for us as well? I mean, sure, that writing a script sounds very uninteresting and boring, but the value it will drive is immense. I mean, everyone else focuses on writing good code and writing nice APIs, but yeah, at the end of the day, you're just doing your direct work. You're not providing additional extra value that provides impact to others. So, hard work on the wrong problem looks invisible, but hard work on the important problems will make you look like a leader. Mistake number 2, the hard work only lives in your head. So, another common mistake I see is working on something important or even complex, but that thinking mainly just residing in your head. And for other people, it might look like, okay, he fixed the bug, but only you know what actually went into fixing that bug. So, might be a lot of trade off analysis that you might have done. You might have evaluated different options on how to solve this particular bug. You might have done some specific root cause analysis. But all of that is invisible unless you talk about it through either by telling others or through even written documentation. So, one quick change that you can make is start documenting a lot of these important things that you're working on. So, let's say you took some time to debug an important bug, which potentially led to a lot of value being created. If you don't talk about it, people are just going to see it as a bug being fixed. But now take the time to document what the problem was, why that bug was important to be solved, how solving that bug actually impacted others, and now talk about the various ways you approached this problem and evaluated the various options. In options, I mean ways you could have potentially solved this issue. The common engineering mentality is writing the most optimal solution is the best way, but to be honest, that's not always the right way to do things, because the optimal solution might not provide the most business value. So laying out those options and comparing pros and cons and why you, let's say, chose option B, even though, let's say, option B was less optimal compared to option C, but option B for some reason drove more business value. and was a much quicker change. So documenting that and presenting it to your team, either through like an asynchronous review where you post the doc on Slack, or even setting up a meeting and doing more of a postmortem, will immediately set you apart. And this is exactly what I do as well. Even when it's not a bug, even when I'm given a project, I spend the time to document a lot of these things and present this to the team, because now, before I even start implementing the project, people know that I think outside the box. I compare trade offs, I evaluate options, and choose that option which drives the most value, not because it's the most optimal. And also, I remember recently, I think a few months ago, I was working on resolving this very important bug, which was affecting multiple different teams. And after I resolved it, I spent the time to put together a post-mortem report around, again, what the problem was, why the problem was so important, how it was affecting the teams and the company. So I try to position that problem as a big problem as well. Not exaggerating, but actually taking the time to evaluate why that problem was important to be solved and how it could have affected the business. And then I laid out all the different things I did to arrive at the root cause analysis. I used relevant analogies as well, because when, let's say, that document floats to non-technical people, they might not understand a lot of the technical jargon, but when they see analogies, they might understand. So for example, the analogy I had used in the document was peeling the layers of an onion, because this bug was so complex and so hidden that I had tried eliminating different variables at a time to understand the root cause. So instead of me saying that, okay, I eliminated multiple variables which allowed me to come to the root cause, I positioned it as peeling layers of an onion to reach the root. That immediately sets it apart, because now even non-technical people can easily understand a lot of these things. And especially when I'm trying to talk about business value in the doc, I can guarantee you that the document will float to non-technical people like product or leadership as well. So the reason I even shared this story was because spend the time to think how to share your thought process with others, because otherwise your hard work will just go unnoticed. You might be doing some very important things, but if people don't know why it's important or how it provided value, then yeah, it'll just be invisible. And also, this not just helps with knowledge sharing, it also makes you a force multiplier, because it helps others understand what you did to resolve something if it was complex, and also how they could learn from that process and replicate something similar. Or maybe you put some guardrails in place to prevent this from happening. People will know about that as well. But if you don't share this knowledge, people will never know. Mistake number three: focusing on hard work that does not reduce friction for others. So this sort of ties to mistake number one and two, where engineers who are driving the most value are not necessarily the ones writing the most code or the most beautiful code. They are now working on things that reduce friction for others. There's multiple ways of doing this. Like we discussed in mistake one, that could be writing scripts or automation that helps others. Or in another example, asking those tough questions that people are afraid to ask, clarifying those requirements that people again might be afraid to ask or clarify, backing up your teammates when they need it the most, summarizing confusing meetings, filling in those gaps, and things like that. So as you can see, it's not always related to just technical things, and even these non-technical things can provide way too much value than you can expect. So these sorts of things not only helps clarify requirements, but also drives alignment and helps fill in those gaps that other people might be afraid to do and take the lead on. This not only helps the team move faster, but also reduces friction. And that is what people notice. And again, I might have shared this example in some of my other video as well, but recently I took the time to summarize a very complex discussion where a lot of high leverage people were involved, including principal engineers and VP and everything, which the result of this discussion was that the project scope expanded and other stakeholders got involved, but they were not involved in the initial discussion. So they were not aware of what sort of happened in those discussions, which led us to arrive at this particular solution. So there were questions. All I did was take maybe 5-10 minutes to draft out a summary of the key discussions, key decisions, the risks and trade-offs that we had made to arrive at this decision. And that immediately drove a lot of value. People benefited from that. Now, because of that, my visibility increased from just outside my immediate team to now outside to other sister teams and other high leverage engineers. So probably took me 5-10 minutes to do something. It was very boring work, but it drove a lot of value. To summarize, hard work becomes valuable when it's focused on solving an important problem. It makes your knowledge easier to share with others, and it makes others' lives easier as well. If your work doesn't do any of this, don't get me wrong, it'll still be good work, but most likely it'll just go unnoticed and will make you feel invisible. So the goal is not to work harder, it is to make your hard work matter more. When your work makes life easier for others, that's when promotion starts becoming more of like a natural next step. Anyways, if this resonated with you and if you're intentional on working towards becoming that respected and trusted engineers that get the growth and recognition that they deserve, book a chat with me using the link in the description below, and we'll see how working together can look like and how it can help you. And as always, just here to help.